So today I'll be trying to achieve the look of Wes Anderson's new film, Asteroid City. As soon as I saw the trailer a few weeks ago, I knew I had to try and replicate the grade. In order to do this, I'll be using Dehancer, an all-in-one film emulation tool. They are the sponsor of today's video, and if you'd like to purchase Dehancer and get 10% off, then please use my code STARMILK10 at the checkout. I'll link the product page below in the description. Now let's get straight into the tutorial. Okay, so diving straight into DaVinci Resolve. Here I've picked 4 clips that most closely resemble the trailer itself. This was my trip to Nîmes last summer. It sort of captures the same sort of summer orangey look. So these are the clips I'm going to use to get close to the Asteroid City look. So I've already pulled, you can see from the color page, just a few clips just to help me and guide me towards the grade. First things first, you can notice that the aspect ratio is different. I'm just gonna go up to timeline. If we go to output blanking and go to 2.39, there you go, it lines up perfectly. Moving on from there, I'm not going to do this from scratch. I don't think I'm quite at that level yet where I can do it in a sufficient amount of time. This took me quite a while to achieve this look, but I'm just going to go through node by node and show you my process and how I sort of achieved the overall look. My first node is always like a noise reduction node. You don't want to destroy the image and make it so soft, but you want to get rid of that digital noise just to help achieve the film look. The next node, I got this from, this is a free power grade you can get online. I'll link it below in the description. If I display it here, I took the subtractive color node. This just helps make the colors pop. You won't be able to notice because it's still sort of in a log format there. So I'm just going to switch that on. And then next we have the Dehancer node. So if we turn that on, as you can see, we're sort of getting in the ballpark now straight away. Obviously I've done a lot on this Dehancer node, so I'm just going to go through that. So I shot this on the Fujifilm X-T3, so luckily on here you can pick the choose camera option, and it's got a good range here of your most popular cameras. So click Fujifilm, I shot on the X-T3 and then F-Log, and then basically that's like a color space transform, I guess, within the Dehancer app. And then here you have your, I guess, basic, exposure, temperature, tint. You can play with that. Next is the film you want to choose. So what I did, I already Googled what the French Dispatch was shot on. Obviously it's not the same film, but I imagine it wouldn't be too different to what they're shooting this new film on. They utilized the Kodak Vision 3 200T color negative film for the color sequences, and that's all we need because there's no black and white that we're trying to replicate in this one. Luckily, Dehancer has a nice wide range of films to pick from, and it has exactly the one they shot the French Dispatch on, so I picked that. And then you can sort of push pull the exposure to suit how you want, and I found it was better towards this higher end here at 2. And then you have the film developer, so you can just play with the contrast, boost, gamma correction, color separation. Some of it is quite subtle, so I have left a lot of it alone, and I haven't really done a color boost because of the subtractive color, so I've left that as 0 because otherwise it's a bit full on. And then I've enabled a bit of film compression as well here. This just helps sell the film look because if you are shooting on film, it will have some compression to it. Expand, so this is black point and white point, again sort of a contrast node. And then we have the film print. I don't know exactly what the other one was printed on, but a bit of trial and error. This one helped me get to the look I wanted, so I went for the Kodak 2383. And then you have here, which is good, this just helps sell that film look, an analog range limiter, which would happen in actual film, so I've enabled that. And then here, I sort of left this because I think DaVinci does this better with their wheels. I'll show you what it does, so you can just give the image, if you want to give it more blue, yellow, magenta, green, cyan, red, you can do that here. And you can also play with the shadows, so make the shadows bluer, whatever way you want your highlights to go. So moving on from that, I then got the grain. So if we just go full screen, I've added sort of a subtle grain. I haven't gone crazy with it because in this trailer I can't see a whole lot of grain. This might be because of the YouTube compression, and I imagine the cinema you might notice it a bit more. So you've got the size, the amount, film resolution, which is quite good. This sort of reduces the sharpness of the image. I've lowered this down to about 17.5, which I think at default is about 50. And then you can play around with how much grain is in your shadows, midtones and highlights, which is good. So yeah, the next one after that is halation. Again, I've kept this quite subtle. I've lowered the impact to about 34. If you click mask mode here, you can see what it's affecting. Yeah, it's not affecting much, as you can see here. It's just the really high highlights. And then after that, you have the bloom, which I think complements halation very well. Again, I've kept this fairly subtle, to keep it more accurate to what I'm seeing here. Next, we have the vignette, which it's not clear in this, so I've left that off. And then other ones you have here in Dehancer is the film breath and gate weave. So if you watch old film, you can see sometimes there's a sort of flickering light, I guess. That would be the film breath, which I think if it's played through old projectors or the way it's been scanned, you get this sort of flickering, which if you're going for a really old film look, it can really help you sell that and make people believe that, you actually shot this on film. And yeah, and gate weave, again, similar to breath, but it's that sort of shake you get on old film. Those two are here if you want to use them, and I do use them if I'm trying to, get that Super 16 look, Super 8 look. It can really, really enhance the image, which I think is great inside this Dehancer app. Okay, so let's take a look at this full screen. As you can see, we're right in the ballpark here, but one thing you will notice is that the shadows here and the shadows here are completely different. There's way more teal in these shadows. Moving on to the next node. Here I've got the look node, and if we turn that on, we get something in the ballpark of Asteroid City. If I just drag this across, you can see a bit more here. You notice that a bit more, and if you just compare it here, it's very close. I think due to the dynamic range of film, you're just going to get a better look. I didn't want to completely destroy this image, so we're going to accept our limitations and just say, we're close enough here. And also, as you can see in the sort of pavement here, we've just made it a bit more towards orange, but that's going to be accentuated a bit more in the next node. But let me just show you what this node is actually doing. So if we go to the log wheels, in the shadows, put that way towards teal, and then the midtones and highlights towards orange. And then I have just cooled it off a bit in the key output down to about 0.8. I think that gets us about there. The node after that, I've just added a bit of contrast. I thought it was looking a bit too light in the shadows. And then I've got two parallel nodes here. So one's for the stone, which I've qualified, just gets us a bit more orange, closer to the sand here. It's not perfect, it's not the same color, but it gets us just about there. And then if we just pull this to show the sky and put that towards the color that I can see, you could spend hours trying to perfect this. It's took me a while, but I haven't fully gone into matching that perfectly. I just sort of settled to what I'm happy with. And if I just show you what is going on in these nodes, so I've qualified the stone here. You can see in the bottom left what's being picked, and then I've gone into the curves, so I just adjusted the hue to better match what this color was, and then brightened it a little bit on the hue versus loom, and then I think I've left the rest of that one. If you go into the sky, you can see what I've picked out there. So I've increased the hue versus hue just to match the teal that's in here, and I've also saturated it a bit more, as well as really brightening the sky. Because if you turn it off, you can see it's very dark, a bit dull. So that's how I've just closely matched it to this. Like I said just now, it's not perfect, but it's there or thereabouts. I've copied this over to these other images here. I think this one is better in the shadows. Overall quite nice to compare it to the sky here. I think it's a little bit closer than the previous image. I think they all just match up quite well and could definitely exist within this Wes Anderson world. So all in all, I do think Dehancer is a very powerful film emulation tool. Just with the few weeks I've had it, I'm extremely impressed with the range of looks you can get. Not just this Asteroid City look, but many others. I also believe their halation and bloom tools are incredibly accurate, some of the best I've seen to date. And the only real flaw I have with it is probably the overall price. I do believe $399 is a lot to spend on a single piece of software, but having said that, it is a one-off payment, so you don't have to worry about constantly paying a subscription, and then you'll have it for life and receive all future updates. So if you're using this on paid projects, you can quite easily factor this into what you charge, and then you'll soon earn the money back. So if you have the money and you're really into film emulation, I would highly recommend this. And of course, with the code StarMook10, you can get 10% off, so it's not quite as expensive. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.